And you're live.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to see us at Ham Radio University. We're glad to be back again. My name is Howard WB2UZE, and we are from the Long Island CW Club. Usually, just to give a little background for people who aren't familiar with Ham Radio University, this is not necessarily a virtual event, but COVID changed things for us. Usually we're at a local college with tables and people milling about and actual going to classrooms. And the Long Island CW Club has had a table there twice, and we would exhibit all our keys. And we also purchased a spark gap transmitter for that very purpose. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to show it. So we figured this year, instead of doing something about how we teach Morse code, we figured we would have a Morse code key show and tell. Now, for those of you who need a little bit of a background about the Long Island CW Club, we teach Morse code online with Zoom, and we have 75 classes per week, from beginners to advanced. Plus, we have on a daily basis forums related to CW and also radio and related technology. So we have some members from our club here today, and one by one, we're going to go around the room and do a little show and tell, and they will talk to you about some of their favorite keys. So without further ado, why don't we introduce Bob W06W, and the rest of us here will turn our cameras off and give the stage to Bob.
Good morning. So a very brief history. Back in the mid-60s, I'm one of those lucky folks who failed a sending test at the FCC office. I think young teenager, very, very nervous, and a straight key and DITS didn't work at all. Came back a little while later, passed that test with a Vibraplex bug, and pretty much didn't touch CW in any way, shape, or form, well, other than a receiving test for another license until about 2000 or so. For a variety of reasons, got back into it, took a couple of courses with the CW Academy, and found my way over to the Long Island CW Club. CWA was working with paddles. I was sending with paddles. DITS were no problem. Can send DITS all day. My hands don't get tired. And it was a great way to learn code. Got to LICW, continued learning, and met some really, really wonderful people and have made great friends. So in that roughly 50 to 60 years, these got very well worn and they're sore and they're tired and they like a very, very light sending style. And I'm very careful about the ergonomics of my hands. A little while after joining LICW, I thought, okay, gonna have to try a straight key again, and acquired a Navy Flameproof, which I absolutely love, and discovered that over that 50 or 60 years, whatever magic I could send on a straight key just seemed to work. 15, 18 words a minute just sort of flowed out of my hands. Wonderful. Acquired a few more straight keys. I think of my friends in the club also as enablers. We share a love of these technologies. I'll specifically mention the technology, the people that I meet through it, the makers of these devices, and I'm an engineer and have a really wonderful appreciation for how much goes into making these devices send well. So I tried a straight key and I loved it. And I tried another straight key and a couple more straight keys. Think about this as the virtual convention. I can't go and try them, so we'll buy them, catch and release. I'm still working on the release part. Straight keys are working great. Let's try a bug. Viz key vertical, and then eventually my forever bug, a Bengali Intrepid. Smooth, easy sending, goes very, very slow, goes as fast as I typically need. Absolutely love it. Okay, fine. So we've got straight keys, we've got bugs. My friends, enablers, started talking about cooties. What the hell is a cootie? So for those of you who don't know, cooties came about in the early 1900s. This is a roughly 70s production version of a cootie, Bonnell double speed key. If you think about a speed key, keying up and down, turn it on the side, speed key keying that way. keying that way. So it's a side-to-side motion, and it's rocking as opposed to the up and down motion. I find a European style easier on my hands. Cooties, well, bug, tremendously easy on the hands. Get my hand into bug mode. Cooties, that same side-to-side motion. And this is a 70s production Benel double speed key. Gonna try a cootie, fine. There is a device out there, the Dyna Maniflex, which is this key, which was introduced in the later 30s. And if you notice, there's an anchor at the back, a blade coming forward to the contacts, and a movable snubber in the middle. So I built my first cootie on this base, highly sophisticated design, tire weights on the bottom, and I had a moving pivot in the middle, which I held down with tape to adjust the tension. I took those components when I decided I really liked the key and put them on a nicer base. Same high quality angle shelf brackets, little printed snubber, and the ability to move it back and forth to adjust. So this is my rendition of a Dyna Maniflex. There are many, many people making these. This is also my recovered hacksaw blade, and it keys beautifully.
That's
Wonderful.
very cool, Bob. So you made that yourself, right?
Yeah, this one took all of about 2 hours, and the high quality weights on the bottom. This is just a piece of wood that's been hollowed out. I've got a ham radio friend who also is a very fine woodworker. So the space is hollowed out. There are as many tire weights on the inside as we could cram in. And if you look down through that hole, you can see an Allen head screw, which I can use to adjust the tension. If I slide the tension this way, it's softer. If I bring it out this way, it's harder.
Well, I do agree with you, Bob, that these keys that don't have the up and down motion of a straight key do save, pain in arthritic type of hands. And when I got my Begali Hst, it made such I was having problems with my knuckle on my index finger, and all the pain went away using that type of motion,
Yep, and I've paid a lot of attention to the ergonomics. I key with the European style, so my elbow is hanging out here in free space and floating, and it's a very gentle motion of my hand. Side to side. Bug. Paddle. And I'm working on getting more facile moving between the devices, but this position of my hand tends to help. Everything is set up high, everything is set to a good position.
Okay, Bob, this is good. We have such a short time, and if anybody has questions, the way it works is please put them in the chat, and then they'll be relayed to us. So, Bob, maybe if we have time at the end, we'll come back to you. But I think maybe we'll go through, not knowing exactly how this is all going to take. We have 8 presenters. We'll go through everybody, and then if there's any spare time, we'll come back. Thank you very much, Bob. Okay.
If you Google search French double contact key, good information, nice place to start. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you very much, Bob. Okay, next up at bat is my partner in crime for doing all our presentations on YouTube, Jim W6JIM in California. Jim, good morning out there. Why don't you show us what you got?
Good morning, Howard, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to be, you're not going to see my face today. I've got my camera set up just to see the keys, which is much better for you.
I disagree, Jim. If we can't see your face, we're going to be depressed.
Well, I'm going to talk about bugs today. Bugs have been what I've been into for about the last year and a half. And I'm going to share a couple of Vibraplex bugs as well as a Viz key bug. And we'll start with this Viz key. Now, this Viz key is very interesting. It's made by Viz key, and it's called Victor Indigo Zebra. What's I? I forgot the phonetic for I. But
India.
India, there you go. Victor,
See,
India,
that's a
Zulu.
sign, Jim, that's a sign that you don't do sideband. You're only a CW man now.
You're right. I'm a Morse code guy. So anyway, this Viz key is really nice. You can see that it's vertical. It takes hardly any space on your desk, and I put the name of it here just so you can see what it looks like. What's nice about this key is that you can really slow it down. You can slow it down to probably close to 12 words per minute, and it'll go all the way up to 30 words a minute as well. There's 9 points of adjustment. It's about 2.5 pounds, about 7¼ inches tall if you're looking for a scale. And another thing that's nice about this key is it's very quiet. There's not a lot of clickety clackety going on whenever you're sending it. So let me see if I can do a little sending for you. Let me get this where I can see it. You can see I got that slowed down pretty good. So that's the Viz key. It sells for about $250, and you just have to go to vizkey.com, I believe, to find them. And then let me bring over a couple of my, these are like the originals here. Literally the originals. They're Vibraplex original standards. And this is really where it all started, isn't it? With the first, our semi-automatic key. Semi-automatic meaning that it's the DAWs that you send are, you make them yourself. Let me plug this in so I can show you. Excuse me. Okay, semi-automatic meaning that you make the DAWs yourself. Oops. I plugged it into the wrong spot. Okay, here we go. Anyway, you make the DAWs yourself and the DITs are automatic. Having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. There we go. So this one here is a 1916 left-hand model original standard. By the way, this Viz key is also a left-handed model, and this 2020 is also left-handed. That's what I use. And this is the oldest left-handed model that I've ever seen, ever. And so if anyone's seen one that's older than 1916, please let me know. But it goes pretty good. And this was restored by my good friend, Jim Zimmerman, November 6, Kilo Zulu. Now, just to show you, this you can still get, this is a 1916, but you can still get them today. And this is a 2020 model of the bug, and it works just fine. I don't have this one plugged in, but just to show you, 1916, 2020, and they're both as smooth as glass. And I want to let you know the reason I like Vibraplex is because they're smooth and they're easy to use.
Well, that's really cool, Jim. Now, if I remember correctly, you're a righty, but you send lefty. You want to talk about that for a moment?
You know, when I first learned to code, when I became a ham back in 1996, I didn't have an Elmer to give me advice on what to do. So I taught myself, and I hooked up the wires backwards. So I send the DAWs with my thumb and the DITs with my finger. Normally it's the other way around. So I'm right-handed, but even when I use a key, I do it backwards as well. So I have to use a left-handed bug in order to compensate. That's my story.
Well, that's very cool, Jim. And I would say you're probably one of the very few in the world that are righties but are sending as a lefty. You know, I've met
one other up in Washington State when I was doing a CQ one day. I met one other guy who does the same thing.
And did he get started because he had the wires hooked up backwards?
He was just like me. We taught ourselves the code, and we didn't have anyone to show us, and we just kind of figured it out the wrong way.
Well, that's the way it was back in the day. Elmers weren't as frequent as we have now, and there wasn't YouTube and this and that. So very interesting. I really love that Viz key. Out of all the keys that we're going to see today, this one really gets me because it's just a bug standing upside down, but it eliminates some of the issues that the regular bugs have. That's so unique, Jim.
And listen, you don't hear anything. I mean, I got the tone turned off, but you don't hear any of the mechanical noise.
Yeah, and that
these guys are loud.
Well, you know, it's fun when you're an experienced operator to have that clicking and all that noise when you're sending.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind it. It's just a different experience.
it's a different experience. Very good. Okay, Jim, that's excellent. We're trying to move around on a good clip here. So let's go ahead to Flip next and see what she's got to talk about here. Go ahead, Flip.
Okay, good morning. I'm Flip KT9X, and I'm in the high desert of Nevada. And I'm going to switch over to my cam to show you a couple of my keys.
What's your weather there today, Flip? Because we had like 10 inches of snow yesterday here.
You know, it's been very cold, but it's really very nice right now. Very nice. So I think we had a high of 67 yesterday, so we're really liking it.
Yeah, we were out there shoveling today.
So the first key I'm going to show you today is a cootie, like Bob was talking about. This is the Begali Sculpture Swing, and it is a cootie key, so it makes dashes or dits according to how long you hold it down, so you're in control of the key. This key is really unique as far as cooties go. It has a sliding contact assembly at the rear that changes the stiffness of the needle arm, so you can, of course, the less stiff it is, the lighter touch you can have to make it work. That rear slider is controlled on the back with a knurled knob, so you can loosen that and adjust it the way you like. And then the needle arm obviously has this little contact attached to it as well, which can slide up or down on the needle arm depending on where you have put the contact assembly. At the front of the key, there are concentric spring-loaded stops and a cam. Hopefully you can see that well. And they determine the center position and the magnetic return force on the key. So these are more places that you can make adjustments to make the key work for you. When you move the lever, the concentric stop is compressed, and the gold-plated ball on the end of the needle arm contacts the post. Yet it provides a really soft landing to stop your movement, because these concentric spring-loaded stops that I call commonly pistons have a very soft, spongy landing to them, so you don't get the clacking back and forth that you would. There is a little clacking from the cam, but not from your stop, and it makes it a very nice experience for operating with this key. The bottom has an inlaid rubber ring that works very well for giving you lack of motion on the desk. But the key weighs 2.5 kilograms. I think that's 5.5 pounds or so. And so it really doesn't tend to slide around anyway. And of course, like all the Begali keys, it's signed on the bottom by Piero I2RTF and has a serial number. This one's 070. Anyway, I really love this key. I've become enamored with cooties, and I've done a couple of YouTube videos on them because I enjoy them so much. And this has been my go-to key lately. It's one of my favorites. It's in the sculpture line, so much like the key I'm going to send you next, you can see the similarity in design technique between these keys. And I really enjoy the sculpture line for its beauty and its artistry, as well as for the fine mechanics that go into it. So I enjoy that key very much.
You know, Flip, I'm just hearing this for the first time. Is that the why Begalis call it the sculpture line? Because they actually are artistically done?
Well, they're all artistically done, but yeah, the sculpture line is all sculpted. So these are stainless steel bases, and you can see some of the artwork that goes into the beveling and the edges and the contours that are on it. And so everything in the sculpture line has these same beveled edges and contours that make them so beautiful.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the cootie. So the next one I'm going to show you is this Begali sculpture paddle. And they still make the Begali sculpture paddle, but this was a limited edition 60th anniversary sculpture paddle. And you'll notice while looking at it, if I can get it so you can see it just right, it says right on the edge here, Begali 60th anniversary, and it has the Begali logo in the other corner. And this was one of 214 pieces that they made. And as always, this one is also signed by Piero, and it's serial number 171. And this is no longer produced. They were a limited edition key. I'm very, very lucky to have one. And the precision on it is fantastic. The gold contacts are solid gold, not plated. The finger pieces have a very unique V shape. You can see how they are slanted. They are further apart at the top and narrower at the bottom. So with one key, no matter what finger spacing you like, you can hold your hand in different positions to get closer or further away. But also there's a nice little center adjustment here. This center adjustment can be manipulated with like a plastic screwdriver. I wouldn't want to stick metal in there, but with a plastic screwdriver, you can turn this little cam and it will force these keys even closer together or further away depending on your operating style. So you can get the spacing that you like for the comfort in sending and your fingers. So that's pretty cool. Also, let's see, it's heavy too. I think it weighs 1.5 kilograms, which I think is like just a little over 3.5 pounds or 3 1/3, somewhere like that. And it has really nice kind of spongy yet firm rubber feet on the bottom. So it also isn't moving around on the desk, but I have it set for a very, very light touch. Sorry, my focus isn't quite where I want it, but very, very light touch on this. Paddle can go as fast as you can go. So it's really nice. All right. Now on to the third key that I want to tell you about. This is my Begali Intrepid. The Intrepid is a bug, and you can see that it looks similar to some other bugs, but in some ways it's very, very different. First off, this is a custom, and it has the rose gold color for instead of the brass on the hardware. Of course, there's brass hardware also incorporated in, and so this is a really special key for me. I really like the color a lot, and I've enjoyed it. Excuse me. So it's a magnetic bug. So unlike the Vibroplex, this works with opposing and drawing magnets. And the horizontal pendulum on this is actually facing forward, whereas on the Vibroplex, it faces the other way. So there's some definite design differences in various kinds of bugs. We have sliding weights right here that you can just loosen and move to adjust your fly. Takes you anywhere from about 15 words a minute up to around 40 words a minute, just depending on how you handle your key. The base is phosphatized iron, and this thing weighs 2.75 kilograms, which is around 6 pounds. And again, we have Piero's little signature under there with his call sign, and the Intrepid bugs are all labeled with a serial number on the side. This one is number 340. I have 2 Intrepids because I'm a glutton for all things wonderful, and I love the Begali keys very much. And the first key I got had that brass plate, brass hardware on here. But when I found out I could have this rose gold color, I decided I might need a second one. So that's been a lot of fun. Anyway, that's the keys that I wanted to show you today. So thanks for listening to me. How about you, Howard?
That's very interesting, Flip. And you know, there's many different keys that people can buy, and just like there's many different cars that you can own, all different brands, all different types. But you know, to use an analogy, I would say, Flip, that Begali is like the Cadillac of keys, right?
Yeah, it's certainly a luxury line. They have things that range from the extremely affordable on the low end of their cost production. Their straight keys are on a par with some Vibroplex keys and others. But you can also spend a lot of money on some of their very high-end keys as well, and I find them to be well worth it. I really enjoy them.
Well, it wasn't that so much that they're the most expensive by saying Cadillac. You know, I mean that their quality is just beyond compare, handmade, beautifully controlled, and a wonderful company to deal with. Thank you very much, Flip. Okay, yes. Next we have Bob in Florida, K3ZGA. Okay, Bob. Boy, I thought we lost. I thought I lost my connection for a moment. You know.
No, thank you. Good morning, Howard.
Yeah, Bob. So you know, Bob, I'm watching the time judiciously here. I think we might have time to get all 5 in. You know.
All right. Well, very good. Well, I'll try to move through them quickly. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bob, K3ZGA. I live in the Villages in Florida, and I've got some of my favorite keys here to show you today. These are some keys that have some historic significance, and I thought it would be a little change of pace from all these beautiful higher tech keys. So let me get started with that. All right. This first key that I want to show you is my first key. This is rather very special to me. It's a Navy flameproof from World War II. Has the contained contacts inside to allow them to be used shipboard and on aircraft to prevent explosions from an open spark. It's a very smooth key and very easy to use. This was given to me by my first Elmer, Charlie Smith, W3UJP, and that's one of the reasons why it's a very special key to me. So this is the Navy flameproof. The numbers on here, this hat starts with CMI 26003A. The CMI indicates that it was made by the Molded Insulator Company in New York City. Some of these keys, they were made by different manufacturers. A CJB would indicate that it was made by the J.H. Bunnell Company, and a CLT would indicate that it was made by the Lindquist Tool and Manufacturing Company in Worcester, Massachusetts. So very smooth key. They're very popular. There's a lot of them out there today, and it's very easily a daily driver. The next key that I want to show you that I like very much is it's the J38 Style Key that was patented by Jesse Bunnell back in the 1800s. It was called the Triumph Key, and its design was a great improvement over older style straight keys. It would prevent the trunnion from loosening up here and allowing this key to slide back and forth. There were tons of these made. This was given to me by a fellow villager, John Alexander, W2DFW. John was in the Navy and later the Merchant Marine, and later he was a communicator with ocean-going ships as a professional telegrapher. The next key that I want to show you is a Vibraplex bug. This is a 1968 Vibraplex Champion. This key also belonged to a fellow villager. This key was given to Wayne when he graduated from communications school back in 1968. It traveled with him throughout his Navy career and then was packed up and stored in his garage and moved around the country with him for many years. When he gave it to me to try out, it was so corroded it wouldn't operate. It would not send any code at all. I've had it restored. Vibraplex did some restoration on it, and it came back playing very, very well. The only parts that they replaced on this key were the rubber feet. They had gotten dried and cracked, but all this original hardware is original to the key. Jim Zimmerman did some more restoration for me and refinishing the base and did some more adjustments to it, and it plays just like a brand new Champion from 1968. Now let me show you a couple of very special keys. These go way back. These two keys came off the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth. They go back into the early 1900s. They've been given to me for safekeeping by John, W2DFW. John, after his Navy and Merchant Marine career, became Vice President of ComSat, and he was overseeing the conversion of the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth to satellite communication. These keys were slated to be thrown away, and John was able to acquire them from the operators that were serving on board at the time. And I have learned in trying to understand a little more of the provenance of these keys that these were most likely made by the Walters Electrical Manufacturing Company on Kensall Road in London, England, back in the early 1900s. I have found a page from their catalog from 1905 showing these keys, and they have quite a bit of history to them. There's a lot of corrosion. There's a few missing parts on here, but I haven't wanted to change them because of the historical significance of them. But beautiful old wonderful keys.
You know, Bob, that's amazing stuff that you have. Do you think that is John still in good health?
Last time I spoke to him, he was.
Could he do a presentation to us about the conversion of those ships from CW to satellite?
Well, I could certainly ask him to do that.
That would be a fascinating story.
Yeah, I will definitely pursue that with John. He's a wonderful gentleman. I listened for hours when I first met him to stories about his years. And an interesting thing, when he gave me that J38, that was his first key as a ham radio operator. But his key as a professional telegrapher was a Vibraplex bug. And he said, I want you to have my J38, but he said, you cannot have my Vibraplex bug.
Wow. Good story.
He plans to keep that.
Okay.
Good gentleman. This is an interesting key. This is a strap key. These were made in the early 1900s, and they were very common. They were used in landline telegraphy, plus they were used in a lot of control functions. You'll note, if I can show you here, the key makes contact in here when the key is up and when it's down. So it'll make and break contacts either way. So they were used in a lot of switching operations as well as Morse code. If anyone has a copy of Tom Pereira's Telegraph Collector's Guide, the strap key is mentioned on page 15. But there's not a lot of them around. They were very common in the 1900s.
How many keys do you have, Bob?
About 32 or so.
Wow.
It does get to be a little it's fun to collect them, and it's fun to study the history of them. This is a spy key that was originally made for SOE agents to work on their spy set units that they took into the field. This was designed by a gentleman by the name of John Brown. This is a slightly later model of his original design that I acquired from an ad in QST back in the 80s. But these keys were used on wireless sets from the late 1940s up until the 1960s. The part number that you can see on here, ZA34835, is printed on the side of the base. But this can actually send Morse code on this. I wired it up on a board, and I can use this to work on the air. But it's a spy key from sometime in the 1940s up to the 1960s. I would imagine this is a little later model. So that's what I have here, Howard. And
I mean, you got some really interesting stuff, Bob. This is actually the first time I've seen it up so close, and I can understand your enthusiasm to collect these pieces of history. Congratulations. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a lot of fun doing it, and I've certainly enjoyed it.
All right, so we're moving along. I think we're okay on the time, but we should move at a good clip. Michael in England, why don't you come on board and show us what you got?
No problems at all. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're watching from in the world. I'm Michael, G0POT. So I love a bit of backpacking portable radio and SOTA. So I wanted today to introduce you, spotlight two keys that I enjoy using outdoors. One of them is going to be the teeny key, and the other, so this is a commercially available key, and the other is going to be a kind of homebrew from an Australian amateur. So let's start with the teeny key. which as you can see is very small. So this is an iambic or twin paddle built by the members of the North Ottawa Amateur Radio Club in West Michigan. And I think it was designed originally by Boyd Mason, November Echo 8 Kilo Echo. So the body is made from laser cut stainless steel. It's fairly basic. You can see all the guts of it. The contacts you can see on the side there are made from beryllium copper. It's basically a beryllium copper spring and a little copper or brass pin held down by a screw. And basically it sounds like this. The key is about 3.5 inches long by, I guess, about 0.5 by 0.4 inches or 85 millimeters by 13 by 11. Without a lead, it weighs in at about 40 grams or 1.4 ounces. So it's pretty lightweight, which makes it perfect for backpacking and SOTA. You can get an optional base with it, or you might want to screw it to a leg strap if you're operating. And to do that, you can hopefully just see there on the top, there's a little hole, about a 4 millimeter or 1/8 inch hole, so you can screw it down to something. And it connects using a standard 3.5 millimeter 1/8 inch stereo socket. The finger spacing to operate is actually quite wide compared to a shack key. So even a twin, that's about 29 millimeters, about 1.14 inches. But it does feel quite natural, and you can just rest your fingers on the paddle pieces without triggering it. Fairly utilitarian, but it works really effectively. It's robust for transporting, it's heat tolerant, so those beryllium copper strips don't expand or contract very much. No real moving parts, and fairly easy to maintain. Just a couple of screws, one on either side to adjust the pins, just using a posi-drive screwdriver. So that's perfect when you're out in the field.
Michael, how much does that cost?
Or do you know, I don't know what the current price is, and of course I've had to import to the UK, which might affect the cost. So I would recommend people go and check out the North Ottawa Amateur Radio Club and look for Teeny Key, so that's spelt TE-NE-KE, to confirm what the current price is, including shipping to your part of the world.
Now, did you, Michael, quickly, when you use this key, did you have to practice on it quite a bit to get it, adjusted to something so small?
I didn't. It was really, really quick to get used to. You just hold it. I like to hold in my hand rather than screwing down to something. So it's long enough to hold with a couple of fingers, rest my thumb underneath, and then operate with the other hand. But it didn't take any time to get used to at all. And it's a lovely little key. You just have to be a little bit careful if you're in the field and you put it down, because if you nudge those contacts, of course it'll start sending. But a great little key for portable use. So the other key I wanted to show you today, let me show you the red version, because it might be a little bit easier to see. So this is a kit, if you like. Well, it's a homebrew key. This is designed by David, Victor Kilo 3, India Lima. And he calls it a pressure paddle. And that's because it's using these pressure sensors, these adhesive pressure sensors stuck on either side of the key. Now, this isn't commercially available, but if you go to David VK3IL's website, so if you do a look up for VK3IL pressure paddle, this is the version 2 of his PCB. And you'll find he's made available the Gerber files to have these made up. If you're listening to this thinking, what on earth is a Gerber file? Basically what you do is you go to your favorite PCB construction website. I use JLC PCB in China, and you upload the Gerber file, and it describes the shape of the board, the size of the board, how many layers, all of the component layout, and from that they can create the PCBs. So the board is shipped to me just like that, and then all I have to do is solder on some surface mount components, 2 resistors, 2 capacitors, 2 MOSFETs, stick on these adhesive pressure sensors. And then I've used a little bit of heat shrink, you'll see on this one, just to protect the components and to make it a little bit smoother to hold. And if I just send on this one, so you can see it's very narrow. You could literally slip that inside your logbook. The key weighs about 20 grams, and that's with a lead attached to it, so it weighs almost nothing at all. And I've just attached, you know, a normal 3.5 millimeter socket lead to the end of it. It's soldered to the board. It would be nice to modify this design to maybe put a 3.5 millimeter stereo socket on the board so you could detach the wire. But as it is, it works very, very well. If you have a look at his website and think, oh, I'd love to build one of these, a word of warning: the heat shrink is a great idea because this is circuit board. It can be a little bit sharp on the hand when you're holding it if you don't put something around it, and it protects the components on the board. But adding heat shrink, you need to be careful with heat, because those pressure sensors are basically adhesive, plastic covered, and they will delaminate and fall off in a millisecond. So you have to be a little bit careful about adding heat. But there you go, those are two keys. So this is the VK3IL pressure paddle, and that was the North Ottawa Amateur Radio Club teeny key. Both of the fantastic Lesota.
That was excellent, Michael, and such a difference in type of key compared to what we've seen. In sake of time, I'm looking, boy, we're running short of time already. So Michael, we'll have to go on to the next person, but thank you very much. That was very good comparison and a contrast. Okay, next up is Mike, N1CC. Let me tell you about Mike. Mike is a senior FedEx pilot. The man is in a hotel in Seattle now. He schlepped around 3 keys to be able to do this for the past few days, just so he could come and be part of Ham Radio University. Mike, that's dedication. Thank you very much. So, Mike, we got to go quick because we got to fit in Ken. I think I'm going to have to sacrifice my keys. I don't know if we'll have time for Q&A, so we got to blitz now, okay?
Okay, Howard, thank you. I'll make this quick. Today, I'd like to show you my 2 favorite keys. The first is the Begali Blade straight key. The blade is based off of a Swedish pump design, and it has a Navy style knob which sits relatively low. So it's a great key for both European and American style sending. It's a beautiful key, but what makes this key special and my favorite is that it uses a metal spring blade for the keying tension. And now that blade is adjustable through a broad range of tension, but it comes set from the factory at a relatively high tension. And when this key is used at that high tension, it produces beautiful, crisp dits that our senior sending instructor at Long Island CW Club has described as having a staccato sound. And another benefit of the high tension is that it provides additional tactile feedback, which I find beneficial in sending more consistent and more accurate code. The Begali Blade. The next key I'd like to show you is the Begali Magnum dual lever paddle. Now this is a big chunk of cast iron that has a ceramic coating. It weighs in at just over 4 pounds. It's not going to move when you put it on the desk. It has beautiful aluminum finger pieces that are perforated, which give you very nice tactile feedback. The Magnum also uses magnets for the keying tension. Now, what makes this key very special and why it's my favorite dual lever is that the finger pieces are very narrowly spaced. Now, the spacing is actually adjustable up here from about 1/4 inch, where I keep mine, to about 1/2 inch. And when it's used at its narrow spacing, this key is ideal for single lever paddle operators that are coming to a dual lever, or operators that have been using a mechanical bug. And also high-speed operators that like to send with their fingertips very close will feel right at home with the Begali Magnum. All right, I'll keep it short. Back to you, Howard.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
We're at 5-minute warning, Howard.
5 minute, yeah, I can see that. Oh, boy, I thought I had this planned out, but I guess it's running a little bit over. Ken, why don't you step up, and show us what you got.
Okay, I'm Ken, WB2KWC, and I want to show you my two favorite keys. They represent different stages in my CW journey. The first key is a straight key. It's the Nye Master. I think you can see it here. It's one of the very first keys that I used when I was a novice. One of the things I really enjoy about the Master is the way my hand grips the knob. Instead of a flat knob, like you'll see on the J38 style keys, it's got this thing called a navy knob. And that was originally developed because the keys had high voltage on them. So you wanted to touch the plastic part, but not the metal part. So they just modified a poker chip, stuck a hole in it, and created the navy knob. Another interesting feature about the master key is that the way it controls the contacts to key a radio. On a regular J38 style key, you're seeing the contacts over here on the outside of the key. While on the master, there's a little pin in here which pokes down, and the contacts are actually inside the base of the key. So that's interesting. As my code speed increased, I started using bugs, as Jim, W6JIM, showed us. And after a while using bugs, I started using paddles. This is my newest key. It's the Begali Hst. I acquired it in August of 2021. And as lots of people have mentioned, the Begali family is really respected for the keys that they make. It's nice and heavy. It weighs, I think, 3 grams, so which is about 6 pounds, so it doesn't go flying all over my desk. And the second thing I like about it is the finger piece here. It's nice and narrow, and it's got these little holes, so when the shack is warm or when I'm out in the field at field day, my hand isn't getting all warm. Here's a picture of how the key works. You've basically got the dit and da spacing contacts. You've got the finger piece that I told you about, and then the key force is controlled by a magnet, which is this screw over here. You have to excuse me.
Ken, we gotta wrap up. We ran out of time. I gotta wrap this up now. But
okay, and back to you, Howard. That's the story of my life with keys.
all right, I'm sorry to have rushed you. You know, if everybody can put their camera back on for the finale. I'm really sorry that we couldn't take questions. You know, when the Long Island CW Club gets involved with a presentation, we need a little bit more than 50 minutes. But if anybody has, from the audience, has any questions, just go to our website, longislandcwclub.org, and there's a way to contact us. And I promise you, if you send an email, you got any questions about any of the keys, you'll get more of an answer than we could have given you today. So thank you all for attending, and I really appreciate the wonderful keys all you guys displayed. Ken, I'm so sorry to have rushed you at the end there, but I know that Gary's chomping on the bit. I guess we're out of time now, Gary, right?
Oh, yes, you're in overtime.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you down the line.
It was really enjoyable.
Okay, thank you very much.